Akwit Low Shnuka Cookstave Askupi Cookstave Cando Cookpi Kana Yahanshquash. Thanks everybody for joining us on this virtual presentation. I'll be speaking to is their business case for energy management, and I put together a slide deck, and Serena has assisted me in getting it up and running, and so I'm just going to move right along. The opening slide shows a picture of the community as of last month, and you'll observe, of course, that's the band office, and it's surrounded by agriculture. I'll introduce you to our nation. The Intakatma is the red land, red polygon, and Kanaka Bar has a traditional territory within. We call it the purple polygon area. The little pink you have here is the reserve lands that were set aside in 1878 for the community. And when it comes to energy management, I pose these questions. I guess somebody would say they're rhetorical because the answers are right there. And so who should know about energy management? Anyone who wants to pay less and or make a strategic proactive investment. I've listed in the left and right hand columns basically people who should be interested in energy management. And again, while I'm going to be speeding through the PowerPoint, I want to remind everyone that Kanaka Bar maintains a robust website. This PowerPoint is already on our library section in library presentations. So if I go too fast, please take the time to go down and download the PowerPoint and review it later. And Cando has told me that they're also recording, and I'm sure they'll be sharing it a little bit later. So who should know? And then they ask the question, why? Well, the answer is here is that energy management is probably the best way forward for communities moving forward. If you can understand our 5 holistic approaches to energy management, the benefits that Kanaka bars reap tangibly and intangibly can be yours. So again, rhetorical questions, is price going to have energy going to go up? Yes. Is reliability going to go down? Yes. Is consumption going to go up? Yes. Is climate change going to course through our wrench at everybody? Absolutely. So the question then is, if you don't address energy management at your community level, then you're setting yourself up for some real problems down the road. So again, this slide is about just looking here. And I want to emphasize here at Kanaka Bar, almost everybody's income is fixed through SA and or low-paying minimum wage jobs, or the disability income and or the Canada pension plan. So as their energy costs increase, their discretionary incomes will go down. And that's important because energy management is somewhat to be making profit, but also about making sure that your membership can have a quality of life. So my question is for all the attendees as well as Innovating Future, where are you on the energy management curve? So this image here is called the adoption curve. And Kanaka Bar has been involved with energy management since 1978. And as you go through the slide, you'll see we've rolled out this we'll call it the 5 stages or 5 processes. It's basically a holistic approach. And I just want to reiterate that as an innovative community, if Kanaka Bar can do it, so can you. Just pick something, pick one, start it. So on this slide here, we have energy. For as long as I can remember, like I was up to age 18, I lived in a house with electricity and we powered our home through battery and through wood. My grandmother used to say, you don't need a car when you have 2 legs and a heartbeat, and then we go down to electricity. And I throw the question mark after electricity because I have no idea. Who knows what's coming after electricity, right? Maybe, so at the end of the day here, so here we see a transition from 8,000 years ago from good old-fashioned 2 legs and a heartbeat down to electricity, and everybody at Kanaka Bar loves their electricity. The slide on the right shows the fact that we take 5 separate approaches to energy management, and a big body of the thing will be going through each one of these areas. But the main thing here is there's a holistic and a proactive approach, right? The goals are to reduce resident and business energy consumption, avoid paying more, and avoid going without. That's why we practice energy management. But there's a second part of the presentation. It's called there's a business case. It all depends on whether or not there's something more than dollars, and we're going to get to that. So again, I started here with 1978, where Kanaka Bar decided that it was 2 years after our residential school closed, and we wanted to go back to some way of living the old ways, but in a new way. So in 1978, we said, Kanaka Bar said, let's do something. We observed what everybody was doing around us and across BC and Canada. Almost everything that people are doing cannot be replicated at Kanaka Bar. We have no mining, we have no oil and gas, no agriculture, there's no tourism. And so when at the end of the day, when you live in a region of British Columbia and Canada that guarantees all third-party negative return on investment, Kanaka Bar had to take back their future. So energy management then, and I'll segueing and leading into a little bit, is about becoming self-determining again. But the main point was, by 1978, despite the best efforts of a lot of people, Kanaka Bar residents realized we were still here. We had survived colonization. What do you want to do about it? So I've got a couple of links to some stories there. Again, you can click on this PowerPoint or go onto our website. You can see the videos and other presentations. So the vision statement that eventually that the community had developed in 2015 said is that Kanaka Bar wants to become a self-sufficient, sustainable environment community. But before we created the vision statement, we looked to the land. And one of our taglines is, what you do to land or allow others to do, you do to yourself. So we assessed the land in 2015 from a land use planning perspective, and we saw that the land and resources had also survived colonization, somewhat in a depleted state, but we're going to be okay. But on the left-hand side of this slide, you'll see air, water, food, shelter, energy, and I'd throw in the bottom here communication. These are physiological foundations you need to have a quality of life, if not life. So with physiological stabilities, and energy being one of them, right? You can live, you can fight, you can die, you can move or innovate. And I put that in there because this is precisely what if you turn on the TV, if you're listening to the radio, if you're a doomsday scroller on looking just at headlines, you're seeing a lot of people are struggling right now, and it goes to the fact that there are physiological uncertainties. I mean, this presentation is about economic development in times of uncertainty. I think it's a paraphrasing of this conference. Well, how do we create that certainty? I'm going to be focusing on energy, but Kanaka Bar also has a plan for air, water, food, and shelter. Now we talk about the uncertainty, and then climate change is impacting Kanaka's lands and resources. So not only did we have to withstand 150 plus years of colonial practices, now we've got the cumulative effects of all of the above. Everything is changing. We're forecasting demand growth. We're forecasting energy supply issues and higher energy costs. So when you look at this, again, another tagline, it's not innovative to go back to using land and resources to live sustainably. But can you make money while doing that? Well, this is what it comes down to. What do you value? What are your principles? So energy management. The community says we don't want to go back to living in holes in the ground. It was effective back then, digging down 4 feet, putting 4 feet of dirt over wood. We call it a pit house. It maintained a 6 degrees Celsius temperature in the summer when it was 50 degrees out, and it maintained a 6 degrees Celsius internal temperature when it was minus 30 in the winter. Today they call it passive homes. Well, we don't necessarily, we could, right? But do we want to? And this is where energy management, a critical part, is about engagement. The community dictates to the leadership, and the leadership does what the community tells us to. And to that extent, right, we've transitioned from cooking over a fire to a stove. We've gone from flame to electric. We've gone from horse to car. We've gone from teepee to house, and we've gone from, well, that looks like an outhouse to a toilet. We can always go back to the left side of that arrow, but at the end of the day, focusing on energy, right, is that looking at energy management is, again, an exercise of well, spelling mistake there, I'll fix that someday, or maybe not. Reduce consumption, pay more, or go without. You don't have to go back to the old ways if you have an energy management plan today. So phase 1 of Kanaka Bar's energy management plan, or energy management, is monitoring. First thing we've done over the last 5 years is every band member and every business has had their hydro project bill reviewed. In BC, they have a 2-tier system. Step 1 on this bill, it's 8.5 cents per kilowatt hour. And if you exceed that certain threshold, you'll be paying 12 cents. Well, in 2020, I believe the rate is now 10 cents a kilowatt hour. And the tier 2 rate for homes is 15 cents a kilowatt hour. And that rounded it up a little bit. But remember, our incomes didn't change. So we need to reduce the amount of consumption because that's discretionary income. So manually we review people. For those people we can, we've put them onto myhydro.com and they're able to check. If you look, there's a problem with this bill. It just says this is how much you use per month, right? They'll do a comparative analysis to the year before. So hydro bills have limited information, does not say what is actually using the information or the energy. And that's fine. All right, and I put a little blue area here because this was a membership's hydro bill, and one of the things I pointed out to the individual is that since you're getting BC Hydro delivered to your home on reserve, why are you paying taxes? As a result, we submitted the GST exemption form, and the next bill came out without GST. Because of the limitation in the hydro bills, Kanaka bars also installed in at least 3 places now behind the meter software. And on the left, you'll see here we can actually track the hourly, daily, monthly, yearly consumption of certain infrastructure. Now, in this situation here, we see a stove at the bottom, estimated cost 30 cents, percentage of total 1%. So this year is a week we spent $3.01 on the stove. And because this one is attached to the band office, that's the stove usage, only from 12 to 1 when staff are cooking their lunches. I can only imagine, because we haven't installed this on the residential homes, that in those homes, their stove costs could be anywhere from $15 to $30 per month. So this is an important thing because now we can target the consumers, the actual consumer of electricity. And so this is a really powerful tool. Please have a look at Curb and Sense technology. Curb is a little bit more expensive because it attaches right to your panel and it can measure the consumption. Again, by targeting the appliances or the other energy uses in your home, you can then start targeting consumption reduction. Kanaka bar, this is number 2, demand side management or DSM. You'll often hear about DSM. Well, DSM is creating consumption changes based on individual awareness. Well, BC Hydro has a Power Smart section, and what we found here is, again, it's all online. Not everybody enjoyed looking at pictures of people in urban settings, hanging up their clothes on the line. So you can certainly go down here to look at what demand side management is and the steps that you can do through an action to save electricity, right? But I wanted to let you guys know that Kanaka bar created their own 52 steps, and we put it in a calendar. We had a competition over the course of the year in the top 4 energy reducers. Now everybody benefits now from reduced energy consumption. That's through individual awareness and individual action. So what we have here now, just a quick listing, is that often you'll see the lights are on in your TV, your computer, you haven't turned off your power bar. That's called ghost reading. And at the band office, even though we've turned everything off, we still use 800 watts of electricity per hour at nights and on weekends. So that's called a ghost reading. We've changed all of our LED lightings. And again, the ultimate goal of a DSM or demand side management is learn what's using electricity, turn it off or turn it down. The calendar is accessible online. You can have a look. We like to say at Kanaka bar, if you can find it on our website, right click and steal it. We've already put everything we're doing and why and how and where and when online so that British Columbians and Canadians will be able to look. Because remember, there's that adoption curve that I showed earlier. People don't know whether or not there's a business case, and there is. Well, how did they find out? Well, at least you can go to Kanaka bar's website and have a look. So for those people who are interested in looking at Kanaka bar's calendar, it's online. Now, number 3, in terms of our holistic approach. So we now have physical infrastructure, and any person who's gone to any Indigenous community knows that substandard construction was, for some reason, the way it was done. So what we did is we inspected all of our buildings. We put up a priority-based list, right? And what happens is we renovate, so we change out the roofing or insulating. We try to do 3 or 4 houses at a time. We can't do it all. We can't do it all at once. So we've kind of said this is immediate health and safety concerns. Then we put in, and the membership are all engaged. So the photo of the individual there on the right, his hydro bill went from $200 a month to $40 a month, combined with demand side management and with his renovation of his home. So as a result, $40 a month or $200 a month on a person on disability. He's probably one of the most ecstatic band members we have, and he didn't even win the top 4. So number 3 is about physical changes to your infrastructure from an energy management perspective. All right. Oh, I went wrong way. All right, so renovations. So we brought in experts to show us what to do, how to do it. And the big thing here now is we address the issues in terms of renovations. Um, Many of our homes, you would actually do what's called a blower door testing. And so you put a giant fan in, close all your windows and doors, and they would be able to calculate the number of times your interior air goes outside. And most Kanaka bar infrastructure was 10 times an hour. That means we were heating up the outside in the wintertime 10 times, and we're cooling up the outside 10 times. With renovations, we reduced airflow down to be less than 4, and while a great industry standard would be 2. So that means you're not heating and you're not cooling, because heating and cooling is one of your #1 consumers of electricity. Again, have a look at the site. We have the videos of what we're doing and why online, so enjoy it. But after we sit down here, and I call it the Starship Trooper, it's where we sit down here, we bring in experts, and then we drain their brains. We're like brain bugs here. Tell us what you know. We will pick your brains. Don't go away. Don't go away mad. We paid you. And don't let the door hit you on the way out, because we now start performing our own renovations. And new construction. So new construction is also important. It's #4. So all new infrastructure that is coming is going after step codes, meeting, exceeding all codes to maximize energy efficiency, to reduce air leakage, to put in energy efficient appliances. What we have here now is that we've now introduced solar with these grid connected projects. So one of 11 meters is now put on here, and the 1 meter that is powered by solar is the one that the band pays for, which is the exterior lighting, the heating of the roofs and the basement. And more importantly, we also pay because the septic system has to pump uphill. We currently pay $0 per month for the band's meter, while the tenants are paying an average of $40 a unit. That's not bad. New construction. Again, when we look at new construction, we're putting this brand new building up. This should be up. I believe that the occupation date is scheduled for January 31st, 2021. So we're putting in a step code 3 building with battery storage and solar. So at the end of the day is that when the power goes off, this will double as a community and regional operational center. That means the lights will stay on, the heats will stay on, the communications will stay on, all things that are essential. We haven't built that into the homes yet. We'll get there. But energy management leads to resiliency. This term of resiliency is really important. Why do your lights, heat, cooling, and communications go off? Because you haven't invested in your own energy management plan, and solar and battery storage, as well as wind and others, are critical. The next new build we're putting in 20 new small affordable housing units down in Lower Kanaka, and you'll see the image here again. So these are now step codes 3 and 4 buildings. Again, smaller units, easier to heat, easier to cool. Yeah, and what happens is it's an acceptable living space. The 1 bedrooms will be about 550 square feet, and hydro will be included in the rent. So therefore, if it's $400 a month, you don't have to worry. Because if your income's $1,600 and $400 goes to hydro and rent, that leaves $1,200 in discretionary income. That's where we're going for the residents. And then the residents of Kanaka Bar understand it, but so do the people who want to move home. But we need these shelter units to take the people out of the urban centers. People want to move home to Kanaka Bar. Now is that a business case? I don't know. Now, the 5th and final component of Kanaka Bar's energy management plan is that we produce our own electricity. For anywhere in Canada, I've listed the 8 energy sources that I'm aware of. My ancestors chose Kanaka Bar for a reason. We had wind, sun, and water. Oh, look, another spelling mistake. My membership aren't that keen on biomass or geothermal, because when you have unlimited potential in the first 3, and you know what? I'm in the Fraser Canyon in the interior of BC. Wave and tidal doesn't apply to me, but it may apply to some of you who are listening in today, or communities who have access to wave and tidal. On the right-hand side of this slide, I identified project phases, and there's 5 phases. Kanaka Bar said there's 5 phases to every project, from an energy management, feasibility, design, construction, operations, commissioning, and those 5 phases generate massive tangible and intangible returns for the community as a whole. And despite my best efforts and the community's best efforts, sometimes we make money. Still laugh about that. You want me to talk about business case, and that's the first time I think I mentioned money. So at this moment, we started with one project in 1978. It started construction in, I believe, 2000 in, well, we'll pick a date, 2011, and was finished in the fall of 2013. So that is the one hydro run of the river hydro project called Cayuc. This is a picture of Chief James Frank with Richard Blanchette. Later on, Chief James Frank, as you can see, he's in his 70s. He received the award from Clean Energy BC for Project of the Year with their business partners, Energex. And then this picture over here this is a really unique picture. This is a picture of John Horgan, Minister Scott Fraser, and I believe Harry Lally here. So one of the byproducts of participating in energy management and producing your own electricity is these brand new relationships with third-party corporations, as well as our federal and provincial governments. I don't know how to quantify that. But again, I just restate, all Kanaka Bar energy projects generate sustainable, resilient, tangible, and intangible benefits for the community. I just wanted to throw this picture in just to give you an idea. So there's the Cayuc Creek Hydro project across the river. Again, the 12 solar projects aren't mapped on this image. We have 3 weather stations. We monitor our own air quality. All of our creeks have our now water gauging stations on it, because as we look to expanding our energy production, you need site-specific data. And that's something that's critical. And as a result, we're going to be hiring a second person to help us advance our energy management. Now, bringing all 5 of them together, you guys want to have a laugh. This is Cando. You guys love feasibility. So I've put online the feasibility study for a toilet in the middle of nowhere. We call it the must stop, rest stop. You'll see here, for more information, please download it, and you'll see that we're forecasting negative $189,000 in the very first year of operations of this new 4,000 square foot facility. But for those people who brave through and read, you'll find that after 14 years, we're at break-even point, and for the next 86 years, we'll be making profit. The thing about energy management is make the investments today to generate the returns long-term. The last thing Kanaka wants to do is make money in year 1. What we want to do is guarantee our children and grandchildren jobs, revenues, sustainability, resiliency. So what we have here now is a 24-hour center on Highway 1. It'll be the 3rd emergency operations center. And basically, if there is a crisis, Kanaka Bar is the place to go to. We now will have 3 facilities capable of supporting the region, and it's open 24 hours. There are 8 electric vehicle charging stations, and those will be on battery storage, because as we transition to electric vehicles, you need to be able to charge those vehicles, and you need to be able to charge those vehicles in a power outage. So a business case. The second part of my presentation talks about business case, and I'm asking you participants and anybody else who listens in later, what do you value? My grandmother used to tell me that you can't eat money, and my mother used to sketch me in the head and said, but money doesn't grow on trees. So is the business case always just about money? And now I want to share a story. That's the house I grew up in, 17 people, no running water, no working septic, no electricity. But the roof didn't leak and there was no insulation, so it was cold, right? But it was not until 1983 when I was down in Maine and Hastings and I was eating a steak at Save On Meats, and I was reading the province paper, and it said the lights of the big red W shine down in Skid Row. You know what it's like to learn at age 18 that you're in a bad part of town? And by the time I finished that meal, I also realized that I was the impoverished Indian. For 18 years, I was looking for the impoverished Indian, and it turns out, according to everybody else, it was me. When you have physiological stability in air, water, food, shelter, energy, and love, and I'm putting love in this situation, I never knew I was going without. And it's critical. How do you quantify peace of mind, health, happiness, safety? What then is the business case? So here, I've just thrown in nothing fancy, the dollar sign. Tangible means it's quantifiable. And so I've listed a few things that when it comes to the business case, you can do the cost benefit analysis. And I'm telling you guys right now, every one of you is going to hire a CPA or an MBA, or you're going to have membership tell you there's no business case to energy management. And to some extent, they're absolutely right. Our solar projects will take at least 17 years to pay off. But considering I'd rather pay the loan for the freaking solar than hydro. Hydro is going to go up, the loan will pay off, and within 17 years, I have operating renewable energy infrastructure that is paying for itself. It does pay for itself, it just takes time. So the business case is long-term, and we love it. We use less energy, we have operational savings, jobs. So the 5 phases, energy monitoring, DSM, renovations, new builds, energy production, are producing jobs for our membership. We sell the surplus energy to BC Hydro on one project. Now you have to look, each province is going to have different sort of things. And I'm not looking for example, the Runner River project, we have a 2006 EPA, and I believe the number, it kind of evens out at about 7 cents a kilowatt hour that we sell to BC Hydro, and then they sell it back to me at 10 cents and 15 cents. Well, that's crazy. I have a better idea. Why don't we just generate our own electricity and give it to ourselves for free? There's no business case that's free. Do you want a red, black, or zero bottom line? And at Kanaka Bar, we examine everything from a bottom line that's zero. If we get into the black, that's just gravy. The thing is, renewable energy management or energy management can also generate revenue sharings, where again, if you have projects that are located in your traditional territory on your lands, you can approach the federal and provincial governments and request a fee and or resource charge usage. Now, for example, in the hydro project, the province collects an annual water license fee, and Kanaka Bar gets 50% of that back. The province also charges license of occupation fees for the fish compensation channel for the transmission line. So the province collects those revenues, and we get 50% of that back. So those are revenue streams. These are new revenue streams. Then on top of that, Kanaka Bar is crazy. We own the hydro project, but we made sure that the hydro project has an impact benefit agreement. So the community actually gets a percentage of the benefits. And in our situation, it's not much. It's 2.5% of the free cash flow. And so the idea behind it is, once the loan's paid off, once the operating costs are paid off, we get 2.5% of what's left. But you have to remember, in our situation, it's a unique partnership with Energex. And after, in 36 more years, Energex will leave. We become 100% owner of the project, so we will get 100% of the revenues out in 36 more years. A big part of renewable energy and energy management is that taxes, as you put solar on your roof, on or off reserve, if you put solar or renewable energy projects throughout your territory, taxes are increased. Good luck trying to get money from the tax man. It's still a work in process. And for anybody who lives off reserve, I just want to let you know, if you put renewable energy or energy management into your home, you should be able to sell. If you put in $50,000 in energy management into your home, you can double your asking price and get a capital gain. So in this situation, I threw in the smile. Maybe the best benefit I can say from Kanaka Bar is the social returns. I know that COVID-19 is now here and many of the stuff is impacting us, but you know what? How do you quantify a smile? We are once again the Kanaka Bar Indian Band. How do you quantify completely self-determining? We have broken dependency on food, on shelter, on energy, and on, well, communication. We still have our TELUS and those guys. We haven't figured that out because smoke signals suck in the wind. At the end of the day, I just want to let you know if you're looking at a renewable energy management business case, you can quantify, but it doesn't look that great unless the federal and provincial governments and maybe your hydro provider is willing to deal with you and give you a decent rate. But think on the flip side, this most important thing is the social return on investment. If you talk to your advisors, ask them about social return, because you can't quantify that, right? People are smiling, people are happy. Right, I have no idea, really, I look at the words like self-determination, sustainable, resiliency, new relationships, capacity development. I did put online something called a clean energy business opportunity analysis. Have a look, it's about 14 pages long of the returns that our participation in renewable energy sector and energy management has done. It's a little bit dated now, but it's still relevant. Now, of course, when we talk about business case, one of the things is I've talked about quantifying returns as tangible, intangible. I've talked about the revenues. right? But most importantly, how do I pay for this? All I'm telling you right now goes to the concept of engagement. Get social license from your community. In 1978, it took 12 years for us to work together as a community. In 1978, we were fully indoctrinated with good Indians don't do stuff like that. It took till 1990 or 12 years for somebody to come up and say, if they can do it, why can't we? 12 years to reverse 100+ years of negativity. And once you have that social license, community buy-in, social acceptance, you can run with it. Because now you have to start prioritizing. And the community said we wanted food, shelter, health, and energy stability. So that's that design. You'll see it on our logos. There's consistency. We tell a story. But how do you pay for it? Well, guess what? Every community I know has a form of own source revenues. Spend it on energy management. Get a loan. At this moment, Kanaka Indian Band has a line of credit with a financial institution at, I think it's 3.5%. So we can borrow up to $10 million at 3.5% on a line of credit. The First Nations Finance Authority, I think they're offering us up to $10 million as well at something less than 3.5%, but we're worried about their collateral requirements. First Nations Health Authority, guess what? Pitch them the holistic overall impact and physical, mental, emotional. Maybe First Nations Health Authority will give you $100,000 for your FUSE project. If not First Nations Health Authority, go after ISK. If ISK can't do it, then go after Tom Duncan and climate change. Then first of all, grab a hold of your politician, federal and provincial. Everybody's yakking about, shovel-ready, shovel-worthy projects, economic stimulus funding. Well, for Christ's sake, do something. Quit talking about it. Indigenous people are uniquely poised to advance self-sufficiency across all these areas. Energy is one of them. It doesn't take that long to get a solar project up and running. And the thing is, you break the fear of change by having your first project. Finally, we're a little weak on this one, philanthropy and foundations. I don't really know any really rich people or foundations who just want to give their money away. So if anybody knows rich people who want to give their money away, please send it to me in a chat or to my email address, chief@Kanaka. Energy efficiency. Resiliency proactive. Here is the forecasted. So this is the province of British Columbia's forecast. By 2050, all hell's going to break loose. Oh, wait, all hell's breaking out, or as we speak. Regardless of where you are in Canada, you know about climate change. COVID-19 has brought to the fore the fragilities of our systems, our energy, our food, our transportation, you name it. We've built a house of glass. Thank you very much, Canada. And now COVID-19 has exposed it, and climate change will make the damage permanent. So make these investments in this physiological stability in air, water, food, shelter, energy, and communications, so that your children and grandchildren can have a quality of life that we have. Kanaka for 8,000 years managed our lands and resources so that our children and grandchildren could have the same opportunity, if not more. And we're asking British Columbians and Canadians and Cando to think about what it is you're about to do. Energy management is then about choice. So here we have a joke about having, the light at the end of the tunnel could be a train, or applying a holistic approach to energy management. You can actually have a life. So I think I'm going to end it at 12:35 with these presentations. Giving some time, there is a video that was showcased by, I believe it was, what do they call that group? The National Aboriginal. Anyway, there's a video that we call The Next 1,000 Years. We can play it. And again, I repeat, I'm a machine gun overload, machine gun style. I rattled through this thing in 35, now 36 minutes. I don't know how to take questions virtually. I'm hoping that there's somebody over there that will be able to ask questions. This presentation is online. This presentation is being recorded. If you go onto our website, kanakabarband.ca, there are over 100 hours of what Kanaka Bar is doing, how, what, where, why, and when. It's information overload in written style. Find your project. Do one. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Mitchell. This is Paul from Cando. There's opportunity for delegates to ask questions through the chat or through the Q&A button. if you want to type in the questions via the Q&A or via the chat, I'll be happy to read them out to Chief Mitchell so that he has an opportunity to answer those. You're right, Chief. That was machine gun style. It was very quick. I was writing stuff down very fast. So my speed handwriting tricks from high school came back to me. And I'm sure that there's folks that have some follow-up questions. So if we can just give that a moment.
Well, I've had the blessing. I see a few people here. For example, I recognize the name up here. If anybody, I see a David Seymour. It's the David Seymour I know. Obviously, I mean, I believe he used to work with Indian Affairs as a funding service officer, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, this is an incredible person and incredible knowledge about the ISK dollars that are available. And so, reach out to the ISK as I look for questions, right? Reach out to people, network as much as you can. Cando is about bringing again people who believe in the same situation, sustainable and resilient economic development. Oh, I got a great presentation from Regina, Saskatchewan. Woohoo! Did you know that the wind signs in Regina, Saskatchewan, as does the wind? So the wind, the sun, and the water blows. So if you don't have any renewable energy project going, you need to get a hold of your chief. I need to get a hold of your council and ask why. The returns are unquantifiable. Convince them. Thank you, Regina, Saskatchewan.
Oh, we have a question from Trevor. Yes. Can you see that, Chief?
Yes. So what we have here now is the question at the highest level is that we've been fighting one of the, so it's a provincial question. What do you do when you have historical projects that are located within your traditional territory? And so the thing is, look at what are called these impact benefit agreements. In BC Hydro's situation, we'll use an example. They built transmission lines through my traditional territory and we received nothing. But we were able to eventually reach out and BC Hydro then remits. So one of the things you can do is for that person is that BC Hydro rolled out provincially a community economic development fund agreement. What they say is this is what we're paying for transmission lines through your territory. So at least there's some revenues. It's not retroactive, but moving forward. In terms of any bans that are dealing with if infrastructure that has damaged lands and resources, obviously if it's on reserve, you can look at the specific claims process. But when it comes to these older infrastructures, you need to sit down and say, look, we need to have an honest, frank discussion. Settler governments and the settler descendants are benefiting today from land and resource uses. You might not have compensated us previously, but you should be able to compensate us moving forward. So really look at the distinction between an impact benefit agreement or royalty agreement, as we call it, between a community and a third-party developer, and treat your hydropower company the same, and the provincial government and the federal government. So each one of them can bring something to the table because it's those revenue streams potentially that can fund your energy management. And in terms of actually doing something, obviously we can always look at something called direct action. I'm never an advocate for direct action. Have the conversations, make it public. People are using Indigenous land and resources today, right? They never paid for it yesterday. They're not paying for it today. So the conversation is, how do we move forward in a good way? You need these new relationships. Do not forgive. Do not forget. But you just be always frank in that conversation. You're using my land resources to generate returns for your constituents. There needs to be some equality at the table. So in terms of energy management itself, one of the things that you can ask for from a company is rebates. Tell them to just give me electricity for free. So whether you have economic development initiatives, so again, the sky's the limit. Supply electricity to my granny, supply electricity to my band office, supply electricity to my commercial retail for free, or negotiate a really ridiculously low rate like 2 cents a kilowatt hour fixed. So it doesn't matter how much you consume. So again, there's always this innovation. What? Somebody said my presentation made them laugh? I'm glad. You take on 150 years, you take on current use and misappropriation of land and resources, you have a sense of humor. When you look at my biography, it talks about my grandmother said, we live like this, but education is the great equalizer. Have the conversations because you already know the answers. Kanaka Bar said, Kanaka Bar story is important. Learn from Kanaka Bar's history. We are a small band in the middle of nowhere, and in the absence of third parties, we have recovered. We have a solution for climate change. Nobody else is going to listen to it. So for those people who love to multitask, I'd ask you to look up Aesop's Fable 373. It's just a unique little story about people who get ready for the future and people who don't go into response mode. Kanaka Bar is getting ready for your uncertain future. We're investing in physiological stability across those 6 planning areas so that if it gets worse, and it will, we'll be okay. And that's how you take on fear and anxiety. And as a result, people are healthier mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, right? So what we need to do here is there's no easy fix to historical use and occupation. Specific claims. You know, the feds either got $1 for you, you didn't. In our community, the feds said they got $1 for it, they just couldn't prove it. So we have settled all of our specific claims in principle, and we should have that resolved in the next 6 months. It took 2 years because with my education, we couldn't lose. Education is power, my grandmother used to say. Work with them or use their language and their laws against them. I was trained in business and then I became trained as a lawyer. I'm not here to throw people under the bus. I am the descendant of the original ancestors of my nation. My grandmother didn't have the right to vote. My grandmother went to residential school. My mother went to residential school. They only got you education up to grade 8, and then she became a cook for the rest of her life. I'm the last person from Kanaka Bar who went to residential school. And with that, the legacy of the residential school should die with me because it certainly stopped with me. And that's important. Residential school, the TRCC, DRIPA or UNDRIPA, whatever you want to call it, we know what's happening. We see the crises that are going on with the lobster fishery in the North Coast or the East Coast. People are scared. People want to have a continuation of the status quo. Well, what point are people going to come to realize that the status quo is over? The boat has left the yard, the train has left the station. What we have now is we need to batten down the hatches and start thinking differently. And pursuit of profits is not the path forward for British Columbians or Canadians. That's why the business case makes me laugh. So asked to speak on a business case. Well, Kanaka Bar's business cases are 0 or negative. We like it so much, we're doing more of it. Boy, I can hardly wait to track every one of you. I see Ray's on there. I mean, Ray, he's listened to me speak before. I've seen people cry at my presentations. I've seen people leave angry at my presentations. At least we have somebody going, somebody's also smiling. Take on colonization with a smile, but be firm, be respectful. Have a plan for climate change. Have a plan that involves sustainable and resilient economic development. That's my message. You don't need to have 18% return on profit, return on investment, if 2% will do, because 2% at least exceeds CPI hurdle. Now, I'll give you an example. I tried ordering shipping containers for food storage yesterday, and it turns out there's no more left. Not only do we have loss of tissue, we have loss of PPE. Turns out people have now flooded the market for lumber and shipping containers. That's a natural byproduct of a crisis, is hoarding. So somehow I have to deal between now and Friday finding somebody for a shipping container. By the way, that must-up rest stop is not shipping container toilets, but I just had an epiphany. I wonder if I can convince people to stop and pee in a shipping container. Anyway, I digress. So thank you so much for the questions so far. I see Virginia Rodriguez online. If I'm not mistaken, I think I know who that is. Ray, many of your names I don't recognize. But I'm looking forward again so that if you have any questions pertaining to this presentation or anything you find online, please email me to chief@Kanaka. And just make sure you have a proper subject line, because Brevity and conciseness is usually a little shorter from Chief Patrick in an email. What else you got, Paul?
That's it.
Oh, come on, Paul. You got questions.
I've
Paul,
got questions.
You got questions. You were speed writing. You went to Evelyn Wood's school down at Carnegie Hall. Come on, slap it to me.
Well,
we have 13 minutes yet. You don't let the chief go with 13 minutes.
Well, yeah, 13 minutes in chief time is like an hour and a half. So
nothing but time. That's the thing about Indigenous people. Everybody wants something instantaneously. It took us 36 years to get our first energy project up and running. It's taking us about 3 months to get the next one. All we do is prioritize and allocate the resources.
Yeah, so there's a great opportunity for communities that are interested in something similar to what Kanaka Bar has done, and they can very well follow your lead and avoid a number of mistakes. So can you talk a little bit about a couple of the mistakes to avoid?
I'm going to go back now because a byproduct of colonization has been learned behaviors and unrealistic expectations. For example, when we passed our community-based taxation bylaw in 1991, we're a taxing authority, so that's why we put infrastructure on reserve. We get the taxes from it. There was a raft of membership who showed up and wanted a distribution. They did not like the answer. We sit down here and as through engagement, people understand the why. Don't worry about the profits, explain the why. Talk about self-determination, talk about empowerment, talk about jobs for your children and grandchildren in commercial, retail, agriculture, energy, in the office, right? All those sort of things. Talk about all these other things because there will always be a very small minority who only want to know one thing is, when do I get my distribution? And the answer, and on Facebook, and they don't like it, is 2 letters, no. Kanaka Bar will not make distributions to membership. We offer membership jobs. We offer membership education. We offer membership capacity development. We offer membership a quality of life and stability of life for the next 100 years. If you want free money, you're talking to the wrong community. So it's tough because it's a tough balancing act because people sit down here and have lived a really tough life, but we have to balance enablement and empowerment. We have to be careful of responding to squeaky wheels. And so what we've learned here is that, listen, we engage the membership every 30 days on third Thursday. We've now advanced into virtual meetings similar to this, and the chat comes in and it's not available for everybody to see because people rant and rave. Chief Patrick's not on Facebook, but people are. People screenshot and send me the horror shows. I face recall every 30 days. As an Indigenous government, we're a custom band. And Paul laughed about how long, 13 minutes is in a lifetime in Chief Patrick's words. Governance. Govern through fairness. Be consistent. Be transparent, but most of all, be honest. Kanaka Bar Indian Band puts all of its financial statements online. For the band, for First Nations Health Authority, for ISK, and for our corporations. Does yours? Everything I've earned since I became chief is online. Everything my senior management and staff earn are online. Does your band share transparency? Everything is a written book. You go onto Kanaka Bar's website, you'll see a document called the biannual plan. Every 30 days, I give a verbal presentation on what we did over the last 30 days, what we're doing over the next 30 days, and then we codify it in a biannual plan. So we're saying, at Kanaka Bar, one of the things is I often heard before, I'm from the Kanaka Bar Indian Band and I don't know what's going on. And the answer from my membership is then go to a meeting, go online, right? Check your email, read the newsletter, make sure your information have access to the information, be it the scheduling, be the financial documents. But be open, be transparent, be honest, be fair. And I'll give you an example. At Kanaka Bar, when I became chief in May of 2015, we had 0 rent collection. So we went to the membership and said, this is not sustainable. This is crazy. Our assets are depleting because we don't have the money to renovate your home. What can we do? And the membership said, I have an idea. Why don't you sit down here, forgive all the debt. Moving forward, every person pays their rent, those people who don't get kicked out. We codified it in a housing policy, and now we have some people paying up to 3 months rent in advance. The very first person who was evicted from the reserve was my son. He wasn't paying his rent, so the housing authority evicted him. I do not interfere with day-to-day operations. We've separated chief and council out of day-to-day. Profits and politics don't mix. Look to our organizational chart, and you'll see that we've made conscious decisions to separate certain things away. So when people ask the chief to fix the porch, the chief says, no, please contact your landlord. So I can't really elaborate really much more on things to avoid. All I can say is we are aware that the squeaky wheel wants to get the grease. We know that people have sad stories and we want to help them. We know that people will ask you for favors. We know that people will attack you on Facebook. The solution is be transparent, rely on your team. When they attack me, they don't just attack me, they attack my entire council and they attack all of our staff. And there's always going to be the minority. So I want to let you guys know that it won't be easy. Reversing 150 years in BC, let alone the communities from the mid or the east coast who had contact for a lot longer. It's hard to unlearn learned behavior, but with patience and perseverance and with respect and transparency, listen to your membership. Sometimes they just need to vocalize their dissatisfaction. If they understand the why, you will have the support to move forward, whether it is in a Tim Hortons, whether it is in a bingo hall, whether it is in solar or hydro. Make sure your membership understand the why. Don't worry about the who, what, where, when, and how. It's the why. Give your membership back their identity.
Fantastic. So for those of you that came here for the building a case for energy efficiency, you also got a very good primer on good governance and the importance of that. So thank you, Chief. Are there any other questions through chat or through the Q&A? There's some nice kudos there for you, Chief, in the chat if you want to have a read. But a lot of people posting that this is very informative, and it has been to me personally. Anyone else have a question for the Chief, please? Okay. So we have 5 more minutes scheduled, and then we're going to have a 30-minute break between 2 and 2:30 Mountain Time. So 1 and 1:30 BC time. Yes?
So can we then, if we have 5 minutes left, can somebody open up, I don't know how to do it, can somebody play the video for the participants then the next 1,000 years?
Where is that video?
It's on our website.
Okay.
And I believe it's also in, and I'm just going to scroll back up really fast. I may have put it right in here. So I want you guys to see this.
Sure.
And because if there's 5 minutes, because sometimes, we go through all of this stuff. I don't know. See, there you go. I broke it. Techie, lines coordinator. So if I go a little slower, I believe that this PowerPoint is directly linked so you can actually watch it. So we've just got a few minutes. I was referencing this video that I released up in the Yukon through. So
so if the link is embedded, you should be able to click the link in your PowerPoint and that should kick it in. Yep, there you go.
There you go.
So just switch it over. Okay, very good.
For 8,000 years, we lived off the land sustainably. The profit margins weren't there, but we had a quality of life second to none. So in 150 years, we grew to a land of plenty. to an existential crisis. So that means the decisions that have been made over the last 150 years has resulted in this climate change emergency. We have a small window of opportunity to stop the insanity. We must stop doing the things that got us here. There's only one way. We have to work together. We have to quit advancing the projects that exacerbate climate change impacts. At some point in time, we have to stop living the way we live. And that time is now. How am I supposed to survive tomorrow if the ecosystems are changing? So our challenge is systemic. Decision makers must learn to say no. We need to have the same vision moving forward. We need to institute harm reduction, harm reversal. There's this new economy that can emerge as a result of climate change transition. What we need to do is start making those investments today so that Canada is ready both for the environment of tomorrow, but the economy of tomorrow. Pipelines, it's a short-term job. Mining, again, extractive, that means it's going to come to an end. Hydro, solar, wind, farming, these are jobs that can go on for generations, if not millennia. All we have to do is make the investments today. There is time. We have time to make the investments in the foundational infrastructure that prepare us. It will create good, meaningful jobs for everybody. At my community, we've rolled out a lot of alternatives to the exploitative and extractive economy. There are so many alternatives that are available. My community has the capacity to generate enough food for an entire region, thus replacing the dependency on third-party food imports, whether it's from the United States or from the global market. The renewable energy sector, the agricultural sector, these are incredible opportunities for all of us to generate an economy and wealth and prosperity. The colonial practices are yesterday's status quo that resulted in climate change. Look to the Indigenous people of Canada. We can show you how to return to a lifestyle that gives you a life for the next 1,000 years.
Thank you guys so much. I've got a comment here. What was your external support systems? Just so you guys know, in 1978, there wasn't any. All we had was each other. We have to believe. What you believe you can achieve. We were trained and were taught and was reinforced that we weren't good for anything. Over time, we were able to establish positive working relationships with contractors, financial advisors, financial institutions. Didn't start right away. How do you believe in yourself when everybody's saying you shouldn't believe in yourself? And the answer was, we came together as a community. Our reserve system maintained a close connection to the land, and although our language, our culture, and our history and the people were beaten, we weren't lost. Hardest part was learning to believe in ourselves again. And as a result of that journey, we've got incredible working relationships, Energex, the Bank of Montreal, Zenit Advisory, Urban Systems, Cando. Ray and Svetlana, you guys are crazy to allow me to present. You know what I can do. So you know what? You guys are crazier than I am. And sometimes you need that catalyst. You need to believe. Find your team. Believe in yourself. Find your team. Weather the storm, because people are going to be against you. So again, wrapping it up, I see a hand from Rod Crow. I don't know what that means.
Means a clap.
Oh! So there we go. 102. I'm now cutting into coffee break.
Well, if you guys don't know and you watch some of the videos, I usually wander around with a quart jar. Right? So I just use this juice jar. Thank you guys so much. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. These videos are there. Use Kanaka Bar's journey and story, right? To help you with your community. Create your own journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Hands up to you. Appreciate all of your knowledge and all of your willingness to share it with everyone. Take care. There's a break until 2:30, and so we'll see you then for the next workshop sessions.